It snapped. Or did it? How's it? This is Chop, Screenplay Prep. What happened here? Okay, it's a chopstick, but I like to use this example when giving feedback to clients with the overuse of adverbs. And let's assume this is a twig. This is a typical thing found in action description, whereby someone is pacing through the forest. Suddenly, a twig snaps. Did that snap or suddenly snap? In writing a novel, it would make a difference to have the reader engaged and speak of suddenly something happening. And that works when it's just the book and the reader, and the tension comes from the words, the pacing, the visuals are in the reader's mind as they see them and interpret the action portrayed by the writer. But when it comes to screenwriting, it's not so much that whether something suddenly happens is grammatically incorrect or not. What we're talking about here is maintaining a smooth and efficient read with screenwriting. And when you talk of suddenly this, suddenly that, well, the reality is when it comes to filmmaking, there isn't really anything sudden about it. Ultimately, the suddenly aspect is what the audience needs to feel, and that's how individually they're going to react. Something might happen, but as far as one particular audience member is concerned, not particularly suddenly or not. Whereas another person who might jump out of their skin will consider that as a suddenly snapped moment. So it's not for the screenwriting to be introducing whether something suddenly happens or not. The reality is, when the script talks of something snapping underfoot, the filmmakers will position a twig or whatever prop is going to work. And of course, this may well be done in sound post-production, but essentially imagine we're capturing the sound on set. The actor walks along, the camera probably then cuts to watching the feet progress along the forest floor, and the foot treads upon a twig, and a well-positioned shotgun microphone picks up that snap. Now, with that process, there isn't anything that's suddenly about it. The actor simply breaks the twig and there's a snapping sound. So when it comes to action description, when you end up reading a screenplay that's full of, and suddenly the twig snapped, and suddenly Bob spun his head around and there was a monster right behind him, and suddenly a plane swooped out of the air and rescued him, it's a little tiresome and repetitive. The use of suddenly is akin to the use of as this, as that happens, as this. Bob turns up as Gary is leaving. It's just something that's overused in screenwriting. It's not that it's incorrect, but when you think that you need to impress a reader and they want to essentially put your screenplay in the go pile, the thumbs up, to go to the next stage, ultimately to a producer or an agent, whoever, you want to make sure that you're not boring that reader, not giving them something that every other writer on that stack for that weekend has given that reader. A lot of suddenlies and ases and typical mistakes. When you watched me break that chopstick, there wasn't really anything that was sudden about it. It simply, Chop snaps the chopstick. There was no suddenly Chop snaps the chopstick. It's overly dramatic when you use that adverb suddenly, and it's just completely unnecessary. Things simply just happen. And you'll find when you read a screenplay, whether it's yours or someone else's, and you see the use of suddenly, you'll find that if you eliminate suddenly, the story still reads the same. The action description isn't altered by removing the suddenly. Understandably, as I've just said before, from a book writing perspective, you need the suddenly to infer that something came out of the blue. But when dictating what happens in action description and then what the camera films, it doesn't really make a difference. And to a filmmaker, when you're doing particularly a horror movie and you want things to be essentially giving the audience a fright and getting people jumping out of their seats, between the editor and the sound department, they're going to ensure that those moments happen. So you don't need to worry about overly labeling that in your script, because it begins to look cluttered and boring, same, when you have a plethora of suddenlies throughout your script. I know that's nitpicking and I'm talking about something that isn't essentially incorrect, but you can take your screenplay to the next level if you eliminate the use of these unnecessary adverbs, particularly suddenly. I hope that was useful. I'll see you in the next video.